Hey everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd. Hope you are doing well. Today we have an exclusive conversation, one I am very excited for, one with Mr. Sebastian Murphy, a songwriter, singer, frontman of the band Viagra Boys. Their new record, Viagra Boys, is out now. Just reviewed it. I'm enjoying it. Many of you are enjoying it. So Sebastian has come through to allow me to pick his brain about the record and talk about anything else that comes up in the conversation. Thank you, sir, for coming through.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for listening and enjoying the record. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, given what I've enjoyed listening to you guys do before, I feel like it's a pretty easy album to like. So I hope everybody else is finding that to be the case too. So I wanted to, ask you about some of the central themes of the record, or at least what I read is some of them, and kind of get your thoughts on that and kind of like what was driving the creative process behind this album. I remember with our last interview, there was like a bunch of discussion around the way being in this band has sort of like impacted you personally and sort of put you on a certain track in life that you wouldn't have been on otherwise. And I feel like there are themes of that also kind of popping up in this record, most specifically on songs where, like on Uno 2 and other moments where you seem to be like either hyper fixated on or making reference to almost like the way that you're perceived by people who are listening to the records or receiving the band. The idea of how people look at you and see you through the way you're performing, the things that you write about, so on and so forth. Is that something that is difficult or has become difficult in any way to sort of like tune out of your head, either when you're writing or just in everyday life?
Yeah, definitely. I think just being kind of more and more of a public figure has its kind of difficulties, especially like, I don't know, we kind of did like this is the first interview I'm doing in a while because I kind of got burnt out by it, and like you get so I don't know, you just, you're people like to focus a lot on like what they think I'm all about, a lot too. And there's like, they love focusing on drugs. They love focusing on, that aspect of my life, which I just like, I'm just tired of talking about it, in a sense. And I'm tired of like, it's almost as if like the more interviews I do that are like that, it's like, it just keeps this whole narrative going that like, but I mean, at the same time, I guess I keep it going myself in my lyrics. But yeah, I definitely think a lot about like, I mean, I don't want to say I'm insecure, but there's definitely, it's definitely weird to be so like, people, I don't know, I can't speak English, but people just like kind of talking about every aspect of your life, or how your life is or how your life isn't. And yeah, but I think, a lot of the central themes of my music are about kind of, yeah, as you said, about how I'm perceived and how I, and my own, and especially how I perceive myself. Like, sometimes I hate that part, this, that I'm a rowdy, fuck up or whatever. And then the next second I'll completely, celebrate it, So it's a weird balance, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, everything that you just said there kind of reflects on, in a way, like the Bog Body video that I wanted to ask about. Like it seems like through what you just said there, kind of what you're trying to get across in a way is like, you personally, the actual you, the real you, the you that you feel like people maybe don't fully understand. It's almost like in that video, you're in competition with a caricature of yourself. And like the caricature is more popular than the actual you, and it's getting more attention than the real person. Is.
Yeah. And I think, I think that must be how it is for most artists. I mean, well, I don't know. I mean, most artists that kind of have have a, because, you know, at the end of the day, you know, if I'm playing live, or, you know, there's some sense of playing a character as well, you know, and that's also it's also what makes it fun, and what makes it doable, you know, and you know, putting yourself in this mind state that, oh, it's okay, maybe this isn't me, you know, but it is me. And it's I like the confusion, kind of. Yeah, it is weird, but but yeah, the Bog Body, you know, that video, it's funny that I mean, for me, that song, for the song, I mean, the video is kind of a little bit had kind of its own theme separate from the song, you know, like as you were saying, because the song really doesn't have anything to do with that. And a lot of the songs on the album, I wanted them to be like, you know, more just like my interests, you know, and I like weird stuff. Like, I think like that song, it's just about a bog body, you know, because I think it's funny.
It literally seems to be about what it's about.
Yeah, yeah, you know, and yeah, and I like that. I want to do more of that, you know. Just you know, kind of funny storytelling. Yeah.
No, I mean it is just kind of on the surface about what it is about, but simultaneously it does like kind of play into these recurring themes in the band where it does sort of seem like you I was thinking about it, and I don't know if this is like, you know, an off-putting comparison, but like, you know, it reminds me in a way of like David Byrne or Talking Heads in terms of like, you know, as a writer, he's got a lot of central things that regardless of what era sort of he's in creatively, he's got certain topics he fixates on, like, you know, people and houses and cities and so on and so forth. And, you know, meanwhile, like when you listen to a series of Viagra Boys album, you've got the shrimp, you've got the dogs, you've got, you know, whatever it is in a sort of given moment, like on this track, sort of a certain esoteric topic that you're fixating on that really interests you and you're kind of deep diving on it.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I mean, that's just kind of how my brain works. Like, you know, and, you know, I used to, like, if I draw, like when I'm drawing pictures, I'm always drawing the same things, like the same 4 characters, and there's always just these things. Yeah. You know, dogs are obviously a central part of my life, and shrimp as well. I've got a shrimp farm, or a shrimp house. So there's an aquarium, not a shrimp house.
A shrimp domicile. It's a shrimp domicile, I believe it's called.
It's a shrimp domicile. Sadly, there were a lot more shrimp about a year and a half ago. We're down to the last of their kind. There's maybe 6 or 7 old shrimp left floating around, and so I need to go to my a buddy of mine has some as well, so I'm going to go steal some from him and restart the gene pool and get some new shrimp going. Yeah.
Some old generational shrimp.
Some old generational shrimp will get to do the nasty with some really young shrimp.
Oh my fucking Christ. I wanted to ask you in relation to the dogs, and maybe this has kind of always been the case on previous records. I mean, on older tracks, and maybe I'm reading this wrong, it sort of seemed like they were again brought up almost in the way that you're kind of getting into the Bog Body, just as like a point of interest and something that you bring up in the track because you like it, or you just find it stimulating, or you find it fun to sort of like reference or get into. But on this record, I feel like the dogs, when they do come up, it feels a bit more symbolic of something. Like on Uno 2, you're kind of like making references to yourself as if you're the canine. And obviously the Best in Show track is like more centered around you, or sort of like an experience that you're kind of like telling from your first person perspective, as opposed to like commenting on dogs as a topic or a, you know, point of focus outside of yourself. So I was kind of wondering if, like, you know, on this record, are you embodying the dog in a way, or there's sort of like, you know, personal similarities you see there that's kind of drawing you to write in that fashion?
Yeah, definitely personal similarities. I mean, I do see myself a lot in my dog, and so that song Uno 2, it's written from his perspective, just because we had this period of time where he was having a lot of problems with his teeth, and we were taking them. We had to spend a shitload of money to take them out at several different points in time, and and his veterinarian, and he's got two veterinarians. One of them is Bogdan, a guy from Croatia, I'm pretty sure. And then there's another one. I always mix them together. There's an Australian one, and then there's so it's all that's all real. All those lyrics. It's all
That's
like,
crazy.
But it does kind of morph into then me being him, especially with the I seem like such a bitch line. That's kind of from my perspective. So I definitely do kind of switch perspectives in that song, and I think I do in a lot of like a lot of songs like Slow Learner, or like any song that some of my older songs and stuff like that. It's perhaps that I'm telling a story, or about something, about a character that I've kind of made up in my head, and then it always kind of ends up having to do a little bit about me, or about my perspective of myself. So yeah. So yeah, definitely with Uno, that song just kind of morphs over into my own insecurities of I don't know, just where I'm at in life, and compared to other people, and other people's struggles and stuff like that. And then on the topic of best in show, I think it's more that we kind of just wrote that song, and I did, like, we kind of always want there to be a sort of loose instrumental song in most of the records, and that ended up being the one. And then I was just thinking about names for it, and I'm like, oh, it's kind of fan service to call it best in show as well, just because,
Yeah, kind of.
and like I think our fans like, I think our fans really like seeing, the repetitive things,
Like the continuity.
yeah, the continuity, yeah, and I think like, there was a point in writing the record where I'm like, I haven't mentioned shrimp once, and I got like, I'm like, I've got to mention a shrimp somewhere, like there. And then I kind of went back, and I rewrote Pyramid of Health completely, just so I could get in that line about the big shrimp in the sky. But that song, like, it was about some complete other shit in the beginning. I probably rewrote that song 6 or 7 times, and then it ended up going. Yeah, it ended up being what it is now. And I think like 2 weeks before the record, I was just, because I was so tired of. I don't know. Once you've done a song like over and over again, once you've done a song over and over again, like 20 times, you just get so tired of it, and you just don't know if it's good or bad anymore. And then like, and I was so fucking tired of that song, and I told the guys, I'm like, I do not want that song anywhere near this record. Like, I fucking hate it. And then like, a week before we were going to send everything into mastering, they were like, just listen to it one more time. And then I listened. Oh my God. And now it's one of my favorite songs on the record, and very fun to play live. So, yeah.
Was there anything specific? Because I'm sure you're listening to a lot of these tracks over and over before you're like finalizing whether or not, you put them on the record or not. Was there anything about this song specifically that initially, or, after sort of being overexposed to it, maybe to an extent, that made you feel so sour on it, as opposed to anything else on the album that you were kind of preparing?
You for Pyramid, you mean, or?
Yeah, Pyramid.
Yeah. I think it was just like, because I wanted to make like kind of a 90s. It was kind of a risk, like, I don't know, making a song that's like, just kind of three chords, like, and like in a bit poppy in in a sense, like, but I was really inspired by like Pepper from Butthole Surfers.
I was going to say there have been like a lot of Marcy Playgrounds comparisons, but like, Butthole Surfers to me seemed like the stronger kind of vibe.
Yeah, but definitely Marcy Playground too. Just the hanging around,
right.
That whole thing. But it's more of a homage than that. But yeah, I kind of wanted to get into that 90s kind of grungy world. And it's hard. It's really hard, because if you do it wrong, you just sound like some stupid fucking cover band. Like, I don't know. If you do it wrong, you just sound like a really cheesy rock band, there's a it's little nuances that'll make it kind of, you know, a little bit psychedelic, or if you're going to make it a bit, you know, you gotta, yeah, it's just very like very delicate thing. You know, you could just end up sounding like cold, you know, Nickelback or something, you know.
No,
And
it's true.
yeah, so you know, yeah, but I like how it ended up. So
I mean, you know, not to be like overly complimentary or anything, but like I feel like you guys are, you know, like at least on this song or with this record, like a perfect band to sort of carry that torch. Because I mean, you're right. That is a very big influential hit that a lot of people like and a lot of people enjoy. But I mean, that song has kind of like a life of its own beyond even like Butthole Surfers and the rest of their catalog.
yeah,
Because like when you dig into the Butthole Surfers catalog, they're a very genuinely experimental, noisy, difficult to appreciate and enjoy band that have written like a lot of very subversive and odd stuff. And
yeah,
obviously they were trying to write something that was a little bit more hit oriented on that song, but it's kind of like a fluke in their discography. And I feel like, you know, you guys you guys simultaneously come from a genuinely subversive place in the way that they do. Whereas I think a lot of people kind of borrowing from that sound, kind of hearing it casually, aren't necessarily coming from the same place that they did.
yeah,
So they're
yeah,
kind of they're kind of missing the mark a little bit as a result of that.
yeah, yeah. And I think, yeah, exactly. We kind of do have this past that's very, yeah, it's more noisy, psychedelic, drug infused. So, but yeah, and then the funny thing is like, cause I noticed, I'm like, this is a bit similar to the Marcy Playground song, or just the first line. But no one in Sweden has ever heard that song.
I
I
mean,
was
I'm
like
not
telling
surprised
guys,
about
I'm like,
that.
oh, this kind of sounds like this song. And the guys in the band were like, what is that? I've never heard of it. No one, it's because it's never played on the radio here. It's like, yeah,
Yeah. I
it's,
mean, there was a time when you couldn't escape it back in the day.
yeah. And it's weird how certain songs are just huge hits in Europe and some are just hits in America. It's weird. Yeah. But yeah, I definitely couldn't escape it when I was a kid growing up in California. I couldn't escape that. And they were playing Butthole Surfers on, you know, live 105, you know, just the normal rock radio, which, yeah, it's wild to think about.
I mean, like on Uno 2, the way you kind of described that track and the inspiration for it. I also wanted to ask if there were personal parallels going on health wise that caused you to sort of like dive deeper into that as a topic on this album, because there do seem to be like a lot of lines and themes that focus on not just personal, physical, and mental health, but like doing it from an angle almost in the same way that you were on like, you know, Cave World, where you're kind of exploring these themes of social
Yeah.
politics, but doing it through the mindset of like almost this like crazy kind of QAnon guy. And in this instance, we have like, you know, a general topic, but you're diving into it from the standpoint of like, I don't know, a crazy health nut who's into all of these like kind of alternative, maybe psychedelic, maybe sort of like, I don't know, snake oil med bed type shit. I don't know. You know, it's like I sort of
Yeah.
wanted to ask like where that was coming from.
Yeah. There's definitely this theme of health, you know, in general, because, you know, I do worry about my health a lot, you know, and I'm not the best I've kind of put my mind and body through the ringer, just, you know, bulldozing it since I was a teenager, and it's and yeah, I was like, I was thinking a lot about that while writing this album, and kind of like, you know, I was going to the doctor. I did have a camera shoved down my throat, and then I had a camera shoved up my ass, and I went through all this different stuff because I've had stomach problems, and then I was kind of thinking about how I used to like go at this type of stuff. And like when I was in my 20s, I did a shitload of ayahuasca, and like, you know, I would go to some like ayahuasca ceremony, and then I would feel like the healthiest person alive right after that, just because I talked to myself in a trip or whatever, and everything's all sorted out now. And that's how I kind of experienced that community as well, that it was a lot of people that should probably, go to therapy for a few years, but they would instead just go meet a shaman, and then they thought that everything was solved after that, and they knew all the secrets of the universe. And I'm also kind of taking this theme from Cave World, where I criticize a lot of these, these hippies that are like, that would have been more on the left wing years ago, but now they're so, distrustful of the government and of science and of doctors that they're, it's gone full circle and they're all right wing nuts now. And I just fucking can't stand these people that they won't listen to someone that went to school for something for 20 years, but then they'll Google some shit and it's like, oh yeah, all you have to do is take this fucking rock and rub it on your titties and you're gonna be cancer free or whatever, and it's just like, so I kind of criticize that a bit both in and a bit in Pyramid of Health and a bit in Best in Show as well. So yeah, there's a bit of that, but definitely health and mental health, I think, is just kind of a subject I was thinking about a lot while writing this. So yeah, and I still think about, and the balance, I like having a good time, but I do want to live, past my 40s, yeah.
There was a lot to process there. But with all that being said, where do you feel like, you just kind of mentioned there being an element of your past where you were kind of ingrained into that a little bit. Where do you feel like you sit with it now? Is there like some validity to the sorts of experiences or things you can learn or sort of like alternative health remedies in that world? Or are you totally skeptical?
No, I'm not totally skeptical. Yeah, not at all. I mean, I love that shit, and it was really cool at the time of doing it. And I think everyone should experiment with all sorts of shit. But I just don't. I don't like. I don't know. I don't swear by it, or I don't swear by any. I don't swear by any one thing, I think I'm always kind of open for, new truths and new, all sorts of stuff. And I love conspiracies. I love, I love taking some weird, whatever, vitamins or some shit that someone recommends me and says like, oh, this is going to make you feel great. And I'm like, all right, well, if it does, fuck it, I'll give it a try. But, but there's a lot of crazy shit going on these days, with people like RFK Jr., I draw a line where people think that, fucking vaccines cause autism or some shit like that, which is total bullshit, and I can have a conversation with some spiritual people. Well, once they start going down that line, I'm like, all right, just fuck off, and yeah, and I think, I think there's some cool stuff to be learned from tripping balls, of course, but I don't think it's not something I do very often anymore. And people that are kind of into that are just this whole, I don't know. I'm into other stuff.
There's also some themes on this record about just sort of like feeling, I guess, like out of sorts in a way with the context or time period that you're in. Man Made of Meat, you have that song, or rather that line about, the job that you'd be doing if you were, in 1970, or that other line on Medicine for Horses where, you know, you're sort of asking to be recreated in a different time period when everybody is dead or something. Like, do you often think, or are those lines coming from a place where you personally feel like you would just fare better in a different time period or something, or just like live or lead
I think
a more peaceful or functional life?
maybe a bit of romanticism about that, but I think I would fare much worse, especially with that line in Man Made of Meat. I think that it's almost like I think that line is me kind of expressing gratefulness for where I am today, you know, where I'm like, fuck yeah, dude. Like I'm this, like sometimes it feels bizarre. Like I'm some weird jester who goes and, you know, shakes his ass on a stage and gets paid for it. But at the end of the day, you know, I'm unemployable, or I would have been unemployable otherwise. So I'm so, you know, I'm really grateful for this lifestyle that I've gotten from my fans, and like, or that I get to live, and you know, and I get to go stand on stage and just make a total buffoon out of myself, and a lot of people love it, and yeah, it beats working in a fucking factory. And then there's a lot of things that then when it comes to when I talk about other historical things like the Great Plains of North America and you know, World War II and stuff like that, those are just kind of like big interests of mine. You know, I love history. I've read a few. I love history. You know, I love reading about the 1700s, 1800s, 40s. You know, it's yeah, it really interests me. It's just an interest in general.
I mean, if it was 1970, I would posit that there still could be, like, you know, specifically in that time period, I would posit that there would still be a great chance that you could be in like a weird band, you know, like
Yeah, maybe.
you could be an Arthur Brown of your time or something like that.
Yeah, or Captain Beefheart or something. Yeah,
right, exactly. You know, it's I still think the potential for that during that time period is very much there. I wanted to ask because I feel like inadvertently that era of music feels like it could have been like a low key influence on a track like Store Policy, for example, because there is like this weird garagey, droning, psychedelic quality to the song that's really just like kind of mind blowing to me. It feels almost like maybe even a little 13th floor elevators to an extent, like with the droning bass in the background. It all, you know, it's got like a juggy kind of quality to it. Like what kind of drove the inspiration for that sound? Because it's a crazy fucking sounding track.
Yeah, that's funny because so the first iteration of the song was called Slang Tang, which is like you know, a reference to Slang Tang rhythm. You know, like it's this reggae joint, you know, and it's just like bum 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 bum. And I was really worried that would like show through. With I'm like, we made a. To me, it still sounds like a reggae song. The whole track, and there was a version before it as well where it was much more of a just straight up punk song, and then. Our producer fucked around with it a little more and he's like, no, Oscar, our saxophone player, he's like, Oscar wanted it to be this, like a dub song or like a reggae song. And I'm like, well, I don't want it to fucking be a reggae song. And he's like, well, we can meet in the middle. And it ended up being what it is today. And I don't think it's a reggae song at all, but it's
definitely difficult to categorize.
Or not reggae, but dub. So there is some dub in there, especially with the boom, 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 boom. There's like it's all this dub synth and then yeah, but I do like the way it kind of just got wilder and wilder with every version that we made. And but I want to release the demos of it in the deluxe version because they're completely different. And yeah, it'll be fun for people to hear, I think.
Yeah, you guys have done, obviously been pretty consistent with the deluxe versions of the album so far. How is that, maybe without spoiling too much, shaping up so far? Is it looking like it would be sort of like skewed more in the demo direction, or are there like, some loose, fully finished studio tracks like, Ain't Enough, for example, that you guys have ready to sort of like put out when you do eventually do that deluxe?
There are a few loose. There are definitely some loose. There's one track that's like one of my favorite songs we've ever made, but it's got some pretty raunchy lyrics to it. It's kind of sex themed. And I remember this was like back years ago. It's when our old guitarist is playing on it as well. So, who passed away. And so I really want to release it just, out of respect for him too. And just, cause I think it's a fucking awesome song. And I don't know if that's going to come on the deluxe version, but or if it's coming on. We've done like this. We made this whole like radio theater kind of thing, and so I want to release that where it's like, and in this I'm like the DJ and I'm the guy interviewing people and I'm the guy being interviewed, and I do all these voices, and I do a bunch of commercial edits for products that Shrimp Tech is releasing.
So it's like a whole skit.
It's a whole skit. It's an hour long, and I think I want to release the deluxe version like that, like where it's just this huge, super long skit, and then you hear the songs in between. Yeah, radio Shrimp Tech. But yeah, I think people are gonna love it. It's good. It's really funny.
That would probably be like, one of the most deluxe album edition extensions of all time, to sort of turn your whole deluxe side into a skit with multiple songs. And just like one unbroken track.
Yeah, well, first, and then maybe, if maybe digitally you can break it up or something.
Yeah.
So people don't have to listen to my commercials about chicken water and stuff like that. But
I would say force them to give them no choice. Give them no choice whatsoever.
It's like in old CDs when you used to buy a CD and you had to like skip through to the like 200 minutes and then you heard some bonus track or like some stupid little, some stupid little thing. But yeah, those days are, they don't do too much of that anymore. So yeah, it'd be fun.
They don't. You'd be bringing it back.
Yeah.
Another theme that I think continues to be pretty central to the band's vibe, and I think you were kind of like, talking about this earlier in terms of the way people perceive you, your character, and the drugs and the bad behavior and so on and so forth. But you play into that too, and I kind of wanted to know where that kind of like sits for you creatively currently, because I feel like a song like Dirty Boys definitely sits, pretty squarely in that lane in terms of, you creating a situation where it sort of seems like narratively you're putting yourself in, I guess, a context where there's this outside force that's kind of like influencing you, and this, gang of boys is sort of like turning people bad, and but simultaneously, like, you've made it clear from yourself as a writer that like there's this temptation in you as well, even without the Dirty Boys there, like, is the Dirty Boys, is that like sort of a mode of being able to write about giving yourself an excuse, sort of like, oh, this has been like forced upon me or something, it's because there's this gang of people influencing me. Is it a way of exploring like the way sometimes people can fall into a certain lifestyle or the gateway to it? It's often maybe other groups of people doing something bad and you kind of want to go do it too, or they make you do it.
Yeah. I really like that. I like that take. but no, I think, but yeah, or maybe subconsciously that's what it's about. But no, that song, Dirty Boys, is like, so I grew up in San Rafael, California, and I was there visiting a few years ago. And I was outside of my buddy's house, my buddy Jake. I was outside of his house with a couple other my buddies, smoking cigarettes, and like this whole gang of, I think like meth heads just like biked past, and they were like, uh, it was like 12 of them, and some of them had like bikes on their backs and stuff like that. And my buddy Moose was like, "Oh, dude, that's the Dirty Boys." And I'm like, "What? Who are the Dirty Boys?" And he's like, "Yeah, man, it's this gang, man, and they steal all the shit." And it's like, "Yeah, I bought a bike off of them," and blah blah blah. I'm like, and I just love that. I was like I just always love the gutter of society. I feel so much for that, hidden part of society, and I just love the idea of that these guys, they've got like all this shit strapped to them, and they're, all this shit that they've stolen, and they're just biking around, and then they're hanging out under the bridge just smoking meth and, living the best life. And yeah, I just wanted to do a song about it. So yeah, shout out to Moose, my friend who taught me about the biker gang called the Dirty Boys. But yeah, and it just kind of reminded me a lot of back when I was a tweaker, and the people I hung out with back then, and they were all just interested in electronics and bicycles. That's about it.
Yeah,
those
no,
were the two things.
and we, talked in our last conversation about like the way that your life has changed and evolved since that time period. And you're talking about sort of like the gutter of society being a point of inspiration writing wise for you as you've kind of like continued in this band, and it's like continued to kind of change your relation to that world and sort of like keep you further away from it, presumably.
Yeah.
Has that altered or made difficult in any way your ability to sort of like draw inspiration from it or write about it now that like you're kind of like maybe further out of it, or your reference points are different at this point?
I mean, in some ways, yeah. I mean, it was so easy to just it was so easy to be like obsessive over something as well, or manic. Back when I was on a lot of amphetamines and not sleeping, like, so things would come easy in that sense, but just like finishing something was impossible, or like, but so there's a lot of things that are much easier now. But then, yeah, of course I kind of have to, yeah, I could probably have to dig a little bit more to find, topics that interest me. But yeah, I wouldn't trade it for anything. Just, I feel like it's just because the other side of things are easier. It's so much easier for me to be productive these days. Like go to this, we have this new space in Stockholm, and we, at the time we were writing the album, we're there every day from 10 till 2. And sometimes like just talking about what we're doing, and then maybe recording for 10 minutes. And then we're like, all right, we'll come back tomorrow and see, but just having, routines and stuff has just made life so much easier. And yeah, I think it's but yeah, there's definitely a little bit of truth to, I have to dig a little bit more to find some of these topics, but most of it's kind of hardwired into my brain and has been there since the start. So
a few more things I wanted to ask you before you have to go. Another sound on the record that I know, talking to other people about the album, has, kind of taken some fans aback is, not just Medicine for Horses, but like moments like the closing track too, where people are like, oh man, I haven't like heard him sing like this before, where he just doesn't really seem to be like, putting on a gritty voice or anything like that. Was that sort of a challenge or a risk in your head to sort of like put yourself out there in a way where it sort of seemed like you were being a bit more vulnerable and singing in a fashion that it seemed like your guard was down a bit, or, displaying that there is sort of like an emotional pain there that maybe people aren't sort of like realizing when in certain interviews they're asking about like, oh, what about the drugs you're doing or something like that, and not really sort of like, getting to the emotional heart of it?
Yeah, I think it's about kind of just evolving, and like, the more music you make, you want to make more newer music and try out newer things. And yeah, and I ended up Medicine for Horses, I think that kind of, it's funny, like I've seen people online that were like, who's singing on Medicine for Horses? Like they think it's someone else, and
Right.
I think it also had to do with like what key it was played in. I like tried to find a different part of my voice, and then ended up having to sing that way. And then like when we're practicing the song, and I'm like, wow, this is kind of nice. And like, I get feedback from the guys, and they're like, yeah, we really like that. You should try it. So, and then, yeah, I think, I just want to evolve, and I want to try out new styles. And like, I think that's one of the strong suits of our band, is that we don't have to make an album that sounded like the one before it, or, we can, I like that we're very diverse in our sound and style as well. So yeah, I think that's kind of,
speaking of different sounds, alternative lanes, maybe not in the most recent past, but still in the past, like as Viagra Boys has been a thing, you've also like put out some side project material, like Gris Mask, for example, if I'm knowing how to pronounce that correctly. Have you been at all working on or cooking up anything along those lines? Not sounding specifically like that, but any side project stuff, or is Viagra Boys pretty much like the focus right now musically?
Gris Mask is, there's another record coming out. I think it was supposed to come out. I don't know when it's coming out, to be honest, but it's coming out. And yeah, I recorded it a while ago.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, and I still do shows with them. Play for 10 people at a jazz club or whatever. But so I enjoy doing that. And other than that, we've got a few like, not so much me, but the other guys in the band have a few side projects as well. Like,
please list them and hip us to it. We'll look out for it.
Well, we don't have any links yet, but that's kind of the thing with our new, we're releasing this record on our own record label, Shrimp Tech.
Okay.
And so hopefully in the near future, we'll be releasing music that we've made that's, maybe in a different style completely, or like Oscar in my band, he's got like a relaxing flute record, and where he plays the shakuhachi, which is a Japanese flute. And then, I definitely want to make my country album at some point.
Okay.
So,
and this again will presumably be like Shrimp Tech releases.
Hopefully, yeah, and maybe under different names as well. But yeah, I think, I really want hopefully our future holds much more of that kind of experimentation, and releasing stuff that we're just fucking around with. So yeah.
Was there outside of just wanting to put out more stuff and experiment with different sounds, was there anything else that sort of like drove you guys to go in more of an independent direction? Because obviously kind of going out on a limb with your own label is a sort of responsibility and ambition that not all artists take upon themselves on the independent circuit. It's definitely interesting to see you guys make that jump.
Yeah, I think for us, it's just like, just kind of wanting to have more creative control of everything, and also kind of just, I think it's an important part of the Viagra Boys world building, in a sense, that we've got, we've kind of always alluded to this company, Shrimp Tech Enterprises, as these capitalistic force that is forcing us to make music and forcing us to do all these things, and just wanted to make it real. So yeah.
Before you head out, a couple more things. A few people are asking about that magic shirt that you're wearing. What's the origin of this shirt? Is this some legit love for the card game, or is this a bit of a spoof, a bit of a goof?
No. I'm a huge Magic dude. So yeah,
okay.
I play Magic twice a week when I'm at home.
Holy shit!
This is a shirt. It says "Most Hated" on it, for like the G.G. Allen record.
Right.
And then it's got a card called Mana Crypt that got banned because everyone hated
Okay.
it. So,
Okay, got it.
and then on the back is another card called Dockside Extortionist that's also banned. So all the magic heads will know the reference. And it's made by a buddy of mine who's a really good tattooer. His name is Indy Voet, and he works in Brussels. So check him out if you wanna buy his shirts. He makes really cool shirts. Yeah.
Okay, nice. I've been getting into Pokemon as of late, so it's cool to talk to fellow trading card game enthusiast. No, wait, no way, man. It's not cringe at all. It's not cringe at all. Leave me alone.
I respect it. I mean, it's great to have a hobby.
I'm gonna, I'll be, I'll admit it. It's Magic is the more badass of the two trading card games. I'll be real about it. It's the edgier of the two. There's an edge factor here.
It's got pictures of skeletons and cool
right,
stuff.
exactly. There's edgier, darker, more mystical lore around it.
Yeah. But there's more money in Pokemon, so maybe that's what you're after.
It's exactly. I'm a capitalist pig. That's why I'm more into Pokemon. Those who are really punk and underground.
All that YouTube money is going to Charizard.
Yeah, exactly. Magic is more underground and everything like that. And finally, I know this was mostly played up, but what's the current status of the beef with the hives? Are you guys going to get into it again anytime soon? Do you feel like you guys came away from the beef definitively as winners? Did you win the beef?
We won it, but if they keep running their mouth, we might have to get it going again. But as of now, I don't have time to talk about it.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Yeah. Thank you for talking about everything else, though. I appreciate you coming through.
Thank you, Anthony. I appreciate it. And thank you, everyone, for watching. And
All right. Good luck on the shows. We're looking forward to
our shows.
I'm definitely going to be coming to one. We're looking forward to the deluxe edition and all of the Shrimp Tech output. And that's it. Thanks again, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Yeah. All right. Have a good one.